I want to know this excellent book that you've written. What was your motivation for writing it? What led you to do this?
Well, I probably spent a lifetime in the library studying 30,000 hours of esoteric study. And I realized upon that work that before we can begin to understand or hear truths, we have to awaken. So it all begins with awakening. And I thought to myself, when did I awaken? Well, I began questioning the church in Bible school as a 5-year-old. However, that pony ride really opened my mind up and gave me permission within myself to follow a different path. And so I wrote a book called Pony Ride to an Awakening in honor of my personal experience in nature of giving myself authority to trust myself. Awakening is a beginning, it has no end. I wanted to write an encyclopedia of consciousness, a guide to awakening from birth to death to rebirth, so that those people that have the courage to seek personal growth would find my book an easy read, understandable. I provide a glossary to give them a chance to push their boundaries out.
Well, I think you've succeeded because you're right. It's readable, it's understandable, and even if you don't fully understand, it's not like you're having a hard time with the language that you're using or the words that you're using. It's very accessible. Let's put it that way. And I really appreciate the fact that you're mixing anecdotes from your life with all of the stuff that you learned from those 30,000 hours of reading books on the subjects that you're talking about. It's a really interesting synthesis of, like, you get to see a little bit of you and your life, and then you get to see how it ties into the stuff that you've learned. So yeah, I think for people who are looking and maybe they haven't really gone very far yet, this will be a great gift for them.
I grew up in the Baptist church, and my wife says that I could be a darn good preacher. But that's not my goal. My goal is to encourage each seeker to choose their own path, to find their own path. I offer many, many suggestions, illustrations, descriptions, philosophies in my book. I offer a bibliography and reading list. Whatever flavor resonates within you, follow that personal urge, follow that personal feeling that resonates within you, where you feel like you're obtaining growth. You know, the old church said tithe, and they'd hand out the plate. People put their dollar in the plate. What the heck is tithing? Tithing is contributing to whatever is contributing to your growth. If that's music, or if it's books, or if it's art, or if it's skiing trips in the Alps, whatever is contributing to your higher self, your personal growth, that's tithing, and that's where you should put your money. Yeah. Where are you receiving benefit? That's where what you need to pursue.
Right.
You know, we have to work and earn a living. I'm a certified public accountant, but my whole life has been dedicated to my spiritual development. My money's gone to my library, my music collection, my art collection. I find great joy in surrounding myself with beauty because my home is my temple.
Do you have a favorite piece that you could share or that you can talk about, like a favorite piece of art that that's your go-to every time?
Well, in my book, toward the front of my book is an untitled piece, which is a circle with a radius and a dot in the center. That's my go-to meditation art. In my book, the art is black and white because it's just too expensive to publish in color. Now, the ebook is in full color.
Oh, cool.
The picture with the circle and the radius and the dot came to me about 35 years ago. Very, very, very symbolic. Now, when we recognize a circle and we think back in history, since time immemorial, with the early tribesmen, a circle has always represented the sun. And the sun has always been an object of worship. And when you have a circle and you put a dot in the center of the circle, it's symbolic of God. It represents God. And when you put a radius from the dot to the circumference, that represents intelligence. So the dot represents divine consciousness, the radius represents divine intelligence, and the circumference represents divine force. Now, what is divine force? That is nature. So that art, very symbolic, very rich in meaning, that's always been my go-to piece. That was done by Ariel Mulvaney, and it came to me with quite a story.
So the picture came to you and you had another artist create the actual painting.
No, I drew that picture on a napkin at my kitchen table.
Yeah.
The next day, I went to Ariel's studio, and she was painting that painting on her easel. And it was exactly the same picture that I had drawn on my napkin with the same symbolic understanding, the same spiritual message. And I immediately said, Julie, I'll give you $2,000 for this painting. And I bought it on the spot, unfinished.
Yeah, I think that's a good move. There was a reason for that.
Well, I'm pretty psychic, and I've always been psychic. And it's not unusual to see things a day or two in advance.
Yeah, very interesting. And it just seems like a big synchronicity as well, right? I mean, you're in alignment, so you're going to have a lot of those experiences, I imagine.
Well, really every day in hundreds of ways.
You bring in Buddhism at one point. You talk about the Eightfold Path. Can you tell me a little bit about where your love or your sort of dedication to aspects of Buddhism came from? Like, when did you first start discovering Buddhism, and how did you get into that?
Well, Buddha taught 4 noble truths. Life is suffering. There's a cause for suffering. There's a cure for suffering. And the Eightfold Path is the path to enlightenment. That's it. That's his message. That's Buddhism. There is no more. In its most simple form, that's his 4 teachings. Now, the Eightfold Noble Path is a way of life. It's a perspective on thought. It's a perspective on speech. It's a perspective on livelihood. It's a perspective on consciousness. The Eightfold Path is a very simple practice. It's not a religion. It's a practice that can be practiced by Muslim, Catholic, Buddhist, Taoist. It's a way of living. It's a wonderful guide.
And so you've talked about wanting to help people awaken, or writing a guide, to awakening. Do you think that the Eightfold Path is not the best, but in terms of simplicity, in terms of accessibility, like you said, anyone can do it? Do you think that that would be your kind of recommendation if someone was like, I want to wake up and experience what you've experienced? Would you recommend that as a starting point?
Well, I think that, when you go to the ice cream store, there are many flavors. And looking at the mythologies of the world, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Judaism, Christianity, all of this mythology, all these different forms of mythology carry truth. Sometimes you've got to dig below the surface at the allegorical meaning. I don't care which flavor of ice cream you like. I don't care what flavor of truth you like. Some people are Kabbalists and they want to study the Kabbalah. Some people have other ways that they find guidance. The Eightfold Path is a guide on on what kind of a perspective to hold in your mind, what kind of right thinking and right understanding and right consciousness. This can be helpful in any path or no path. How can we live without right thinking and without right understanding? It's a guide for any human being. Truth is simple. If it cannot be explained in simple words, then you probably don't have a very good understanding of it. I wrote my book in a very readable way, in very simple words, the best I could to make it understandable. The spiritual terminology, the language of the spiritual community is unique, and I use words like aura and prana, but I also provide a glossary. You know, every culture has a different language: banking, spirituality, geography. We may not be familiar with the nomenclature. We may not be familiar with the language. A glossary is provided. These are words that represent symbols that represent personal awareness.
Yeah, and I think it's not just for spirituality. I mean, I think that's the sign of true understanding, is taking something relatively complex and explaining it clearly and simply. You know, whether you're a scientist, whether you're a historian, or whether you're a mystic, if you can't get to the point and can't make it relatively understandable, then you probably don't have that great of an understanding yourself.
Well, I think it was probably Einstein that made that statement, and I'm repeating it, and I agree with him.
Okay, I have to ask you before you go, I have to ask you about COVID-19. I have to get your thoughts, and especially after you just said you're good at forecasting. So 2 questions relating to the COVID-19 situation. Number 1, what do you think is the root cause, or sorry, that's a leading question. Let me try that again. How do you think we got here with COVID-19? Do you think it is what it appears to be, or what the media is saying, or do you think there's more to it than that? That's question number 1. Question number 2, where are we going in this brave new world? So I'll let you answer those.
Well, first of all, bacteria, viruses are all part of nature. They come and go. We have a flu virus. We probably got 15 different types of flu virus. This is just another form of virus, another form of flu virus. It's something new. We don't know much about it. We don't know if it can be gotten on a repetitive basis or if we build up an immunity. We don't know what defenses we have. We don't have a vaccine. It's something new that appeared in the world. It's an act of nature. Well, as an act of nature, it played upon the fear of humanity. And humanity responded by shutting everything down to protect a few lives, which is beautiful. Now, guess what? In this shutdown, we have a moment to ourselves, a moment to reflect, a moment to recreate, re-examine our values, our principles, our beliefs. This act of nature has worked out to be an act of God, bringing about a new beginning to the world that we once knew, into a world that has many unknown possibilities.
Beautifully said. And I literally couldn't have said it better myself. I tried. I made a video about this, and so yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think, so here's the part that I think you're touching on, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper into it, is that the reason that this has happened, not only the virus, but the shutdown, is because of our values, our beliefs as a species, right? And so the fact that now we're in a position to reevaluate all of those things, it's kind of like we had to be forced into isolation so that we would finally like go within and look at ourselves for the first time, right?
Well, if you look back in our life, the last 30 years, the hustle, the bustle, the craziness, the hurry, 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 that wasn't normal.
No, profit
That
over
was
lives.
not that.
You know?
Now that we're home with our children, having dinner at the dining table, this is normal.
Yes.
What we were doing before wasn't normal. We're living today at home with the children the way I did in 1955 on the farm. I was home with mom and dad having dinner. The families were together. We didn't hurry anywhere. We walked to the barn and milked. Our lives became too hectic. Our lives, we had lost touch with what's important.
I couldn't agree more. And yeah, our lives became too hectic because I think at some point along the way, we started to put value on money over human lives. Like it was more important for me to work 80 hours and make the money so that I could get the car and the house and this. It's like the money and the sort of value system that we have is kind of at the core of that hustle and bustle, don't you think?
Well, in Western society in particular, we have to operate with cash flow. We have to pay for rent, transportation, food. In the Western world in particular, money is a measurement or an object to our livelihoods. Now, we can pursue enough or we can pursue an abundance. Now, when I pray, I say, God, give me enough for today. I never say I want a fortune. I just want enough. And all my life, I've always been given enough. You know, I don't tell God how much is enough. I just let him show me.
Mm-hmm.
I have enough to do videos. I have enough to write a book. I have enough to be in a comfortable home. We should never ask for more than what's enough.
No, I agree. And I think that's part of the problem is there are people out there who there is no such thing as enough.
Well,
all of it is not enough.
People have fear.
Yeah.
They fear lack.
Yeah.
They fear doing without.
Mm-hmm.
You have to trust God to provide for us every day the same way he does for the bird.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So what do you think about the future? You say there's all these new possibilities, and this is a chance for us to revisit our beliefs and some of the things that we've done that might have contributed to our current situation. So in your opinion, moving forward, what are some ideas or what are some new beliefs that we should be looking to adopt so that we avoid going right back to where we started here?
Well, if we re-examine our values and principles and beliefs, maybe we should reevaluate our importance of money, importance of work, importance of socializing. Maybe we should focus on the family, the children. Maybe we should focus on an investment in ourselves. People spend hundreds of dollars at the gym getting physical exercise, but look, we have a physical body, an emotional body, a mental body, a spiritual body. They all require equal attention. Yeah. You know, the world has changed, the technology's changed, we have social media, we have internet. All of these companies have been wanting to get in sync with the 21st century technology, but they just couldn't. They couldn't stop and shift and adjust. Well, guess what? Now they're shut down and they have to shift and adjust. And now they can do what they've been wanting to do and get a more online presence. They can develop their social media. We're having the opportunity of a lifetime. Anytime there's pain, there's also opportunity.
Well said. I agree. Yeah. So, yeah, I can't add anything to that. I think you're spot on. Good for you. Actually, you know what? I do have a question, another one. And it kind of relates to this whole idea of our value system and putting sort of profit and money at the top of the value pyramid. I think what you said at the beginning of the COVID-19 conversation, you know, it isn't like this scourge, right? It's not like it's going to, at this point in time, like it's comparable to a flu in a lot of ways. But at the same time, it's crushing our medical systems and it's threatening our medical systems. It's almost like our medical systems are not adequately funded, or maybe they're not structured properly. And what do you think about that? Because especially in your neck of the woods, you know, there is a profit incentive on people's health, whether it's through the healthcare system or through the prison system, right? Where there's a profit to be made from locking people up. There's a profit to be made from curing people of diseases. So Do you think that that in any way has played a part into why COVID-19 is so threatening right now?
Well, if you look at economics, we've developed this concept of just-in-time delivery. If we need 100 units tomorrow, order 100, don't order 500. Everything is so efficient that we have just-in-time delivery. Medical is no different. We have just enough hospitals to cover the daily surgeries, the daily automobile accidents. Our medical professions provided enough hospitals and hospital beds to cover our daily needs. Now, if we have 2,000 people that need emergency care, it overloads the system. They're not prepared for that. We have fatalities because we don't have enough ventilators. You know, they're not prepared for an epidemic. They're prepared for normal life. In normal life, they need 1,000 beds. Today, they need 4,000. It's not a question of it's a question of just-in-time delivery. You know, all of our goods and services are provided according to our need. And this is an extraordinary event.
So you think in normal circumstances, it's all good and well. It's just that this is an unexpected thing that no one could have accounted for.
Well, that's why we have overloaded our hospitals, because they don't have enough ventilators for 2,000 patients in 1 week.
Right.
They just weren't equipped. They never thought about having that need. We've not had an pandemic like this since 1918. Yeah. Now, I remember the polio in the 1950s, and we had iron lungs, but in the 1918 Spanish flu, my grandfather died in 1918 of Spanish flu. The first wave killed 5 million. The second wave killed 50 million. We're having the first wave of this virus. There could be a second wave. We don't have a vaccine. And even if we did have a vaccine, we'd have to vaccinate hundreds of millions of people. So this could last a year or two.
Wow. So are you forecasting that? Is that one of your predictions?
Well, you know, we don't know anything about this virus. We don't know if we can build up an immunity. We don't know if we'll have a relapse. We don't know if it's going to come back in the fall and the winter months and get mixed in with our normal flu virus. It's such an unknown. Every day is a new beginning. We just don't know where this is going.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that's what makes it very difficult for people, is the unknown, not knowing whether they're going to be at home for a week, a month, a year, as you said, right? I mean, no one really knows. And I think that causes a lot of fear in people.
I think what we're going to experience is a new way of living, social distancing. I think we're going to be socialized less. I think we're going to go to group events less. I think we're going to be a little bit more protective of our space, our health, for ourselves and for others. When you change your habits and you're home for a month or two, your habits change. You don't return to the old habits. You start new life with new habits. The things that worked in the past are not going to be very popular in the future. Every aspect of our life is changing.
For the better, I hope.
Well, hopefully we're wiser.
Oh, yeah, and I think it really depends on how you handle the situation and what you make of it. You know, as you said, when there is pain, there is opportunity. And I think a lot of people, they just stop at the pain and they say, oh, I wish I could go out, or tired of being at home. And it's like, you got to take that and you got to move through it. Like, you got to keep going, because there's actually something better beyond it. But if you get stuck at that, oh, I hate being at home, or I can't, blah, 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 then I don't think it's going to help people move to a better place.
In my opinion, if you're stuck at home and you're bored, go buy my book. It will be a great value to you.
If you could summarize the sort of central message of it in a concise way for me, what would be the central theme or the central message of your book?
The time to begin your spiritual search is now. You've not missed anything. It's not too late. Now is the perfect time, because now is the first moment of the rest of your life. My book is a guide from birth to death, after death, and rebirth. If you read the early part of my book and my childhood, you can think back of your own experiences, and you can resonate and relate and think of your own experience. I'm just giving you an example to encourage you to reflect back and think of your own experience. Every adult, by the time they're our age, has had at least one spiritual experience. Maybe they didn't believe it. Maybe they don't trust it. Maybe they doubt it. My book is to tell you, believe it, trust it. This is part of life. It really happens.
Beautiful. Awesome, man. Yeah. So Pony Ride to Unawakening, pardon me. And I will put the links to the Amazon page in the comments section for you. And yeah, thanks a lot, man. This has been a good chat with you. Is there anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Here's what I say. Awakening can begin, but it never ends.
All right, man. Well, that's unfortunately all the time I have today, but I'm at home a lot more now. So that's, I've been doing a lot more videos and trying to reach out to people again and reconnect with people, because I just haven't had a chance in the last 3 years. It's been so busy. So yeah, it's a blessing. Like you said, I get to spend more time with my family, get to be at home more, get to work around the house and, complete the honey-do list. So I'm having a great time, and it seems like you're having a good time as well.
Well, Ali, right now I'm helping so many companies and so many clients and so many businesses. I'm more busy than ever.
Wow, there you go. Business is good. And you're not just helping companies, you're helping, spiritual seekers and people of all walks of life with this book. So thank you for writing it. And thanks for sharing it with me in the early draft stages. I really enjoyed it both times.
Well, Ali, thank you for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. We'll talk soon.
Good night.